Test. Test. Sibilance.
A friend of mine said, when you're playing against a team that has, players that are 6'7" and 6'7" 1 and 7, there's one player 7'6", 7 feet 6 inches tall. At the end of the game, they're still 7 feet 6 inches tall. When everybody else is getting tired, they're still tall. And
It's 9
good
o'clock.
point.
Where did they find somebody that was 7?
9 o'clock.
We on? Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's 9 a.m., April 2nd, so happy spring. We'll open the meeting this morning with Pledge of Allegiance. And Lee, you want to lead us this morning?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Lee. This morning, Cindy is out of the office, so Jody has been kind enough to sit in for us this morning. So if you have any questions as we go, be sure to stop us and so you can get caught up, okay? That being said, housekeeping, if you have a cell phone, please silence it or turn it off. If you have a phone call that you need to take, please go out to the rotunda and take it so you don't disrupt the meeting. Is there anyone in the audience this morning that would like to address the board during the open? We'll give you time to do that. If it's an item that is not on the agenda, we can't act on it, but we certainly can listen to your concerns. Seeing none, how about the board? Is there any items on the agenda that the board has a conflict of interest with or may have a conflict of interest with? Seeing none,
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
we have a motion to approve the agenda. Also, one of the other housekeeping things, this meeting is being streamed live, so if you do approach the board, you will be on the live stream. We have a motion by Hatton to approve the agenda. Is there a second to that? Commissioner Waterman? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Let's go on then to the
Move
March
to
26th
approve
minutes.
as emailed.
Second.
We have a motion by Hatton to approve as mailed. Motion by Hatton, second by Troy. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Let's go right on to the monthly reports, and Jody is not here. Al just came in, though. Morning, Al. Veteran Service.
Morning.
Yeah.
Turn your mic on there.
Okay, for the month of March, I guess, we had 76 walk-ins and appointments, 2 house calls, 1 trip to Minneapolis to transport a veteran, and 1 trip to Sioux Falls.
Only one just about?
Yep. Weather played a little bit of it last month again,
Those will pick up probably this month.
probably.
How's the office going over there?
It's going okay.
Good?
It was a little cold there a few of those days. It got really
Yeah.
40 below wind chill factor and that. I had to wear a stocking cap because of the thermal panel on top, you know. So,
Any other questions?
You said 2 house calls? Is that what you said? Is that what the, is that what the word was?
house calls,
Oh, okay.
yeah, 2 house calls.
Okay, thank you, Al.
Thanks, Al.
Thanks,
Let's
Al.
go on to Steve, lead supervisor. And while you're up here, Steve, we'll take a look at the contract for weed spraying too.
Well, I mean, the weed agenda, I guess it's pretty weak yet, but I'm sure that in another month or so it'll start picking up. But this past month, attended a couple meetings, weed meetings in Dual County and Grant County. I've also, on the weed agenda, we'll be having a meeting on, let me look at it, the 24th of April. I'll probably set that at 7 o'clock. This will just basically go over my 2020 budget. I need to kind of get that through the board before I have to have it presented in May here to the auditor. So, also, I have on that I will be attending for a request form to attend the Weed Commission meeting out in Pierre on the 10th of April. And also speaking, also another one is to have the mosquito fogger calibrated and up in Aberdeen. Of course, you know, it's getting that time of year, and so far every year that I've gone to Aberdeen, we've had snow every time that we go up and calibrate it. So we'll see how this year turns out.
Steve, how much does that calibration change from year to year?
It really don't. They need it. It's by state law. They have to have it calibrated every year, and so if it's out of function, it needs to be repaired. It's something to do with safeguards for how much amount is being put out on all the machines.
They actual run a physical.
They actually run a physical deal, and they have it's like a little diode that's on a big end stick, and it measures how many particles sizes that go through that screen. That's about, and calibrates how much estimate comes through. So, yep, it actually physically they do it. So, and then I've been working on the right-of-way stuff for the county roads. Probably about maybe a third of the way so far. A lot of stuff is misinformation yet. Can't find a lot of it. We're speculating probably back when that was done, maybe the possibility that the landowners were supposed to come in and turn that into the register of deeds, and never gotten done. So,
So what do you do in those cases?
I don't know. I think it probably would have to go to the state's attorney and see what has to be done and discussed with that. I couldn't really tell you what.
Otherwise, you go back to the statute.
And I'd
66
probably,
feet from the center.
it probably would have to be, but that's going to look like a mess. So, I think that probably pretty well handles what I can think of right now at this point.
Okay, any questions for Steve? Seeing none, let's go on then to, jump down to item number 9. Action to authorize the chair to sign a contract with South Dakota DOT for the 2019 weed spraying program, and that's in your packet.
I don't know if
You wanna
she
look-
put every one of them. I don't exactly remember the amount. I think 24,900 and something, I believe, I think for sure.
Oh, I just looked at it here.
30,111.1.
What's that? No.
Oh, no, never mind.
That's something else.
That's Rick's.
Yep.
I'll make the motion to do this.
Oh, you have a motion by Gable.
Second.
Second by Waterman to
The amount is
allow the chair to sign this agreement. And I reviewed the agreement, and it's the same as last time.
Yep. This is typically every year that's done. We have to have
Oh, okay.
shows the amount, what's going to be presented to the state. Has to be brought across to the commissioners and accepted and signed and so that before it can be go through the state, so.
I do appreciate there's a map in there with the, what this agreement will cover, which roads.
Yep. Generally, what it happens is usually whatever the region covers or each county covers is usually the roads that they maintain is what we maintain.
All right, any more discussion?
Mr. Chairman, just so people know what we're talking about the amount that the state will pay the county.
Yep, this is a contract the state will pay for controlling the noxious weeds in their right of ways.
On state roads in our county.
Yep.
That also includes the use of truck equipment,
Yep.
UTV equipment, labor.
Yep, pretty well. Chemical, labor, trucks, UTV.
When we're referring to these right-of-ways, they're a lot larger than the normal right-of-way, the interstate right-of-way.
Right, especially like the interstate, it gets to be quite wide. You know, I've always asked the question is how many miles comparison to other counties? Connington County probably has a few less miles than some of the surrounding counties for at least miles of state right-of-way, but it just depends on each county too. They don't have the interstate also, so that makes a difference for the amount of width of right-of-ways, circumference area. So.
Okay, good discussion. Any more? Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Steve.
Bet.
Thanks, Steve.
All right, now let's go back to the monthly reports, and Sarah is here, so Sarah?
Jody's here too. Jody's here.
Oh, Jody's here, too. Okay. Yeah. We'll do Sarah. Sarah's up, on her way.
Morning, sir.
Morning.
And there are handouts.
I forgot. I almost forgot to come. I was like, oh, wait.
It's Tuesday.
Yes. Nothing too significant on the reports. The averages that are served are about the same. They were down a little bit in February, but that gives us more time to work on the medical. So a lot of times you'll kind of see that increase in the medical when the other numbers are down. Just was going to share a little bit. I had visited with Sunny with the deflection program. We talked about a client that she was working with who, in 1 week, the client, just the intensive case manager, just going to highlight sometime how intensive it can be. She had a client that took the whole 15 hours that she works for 1 week. I mean, it was just one client. So very intense situation. She's utilizing driving more. One day she dropped 2 clients off for their appointments at HSA. So a lot of times if our clients forget to call transit or something, and if she's available, she's able to do that. And even what happened on that one, she dropped one off at HSA and turned around and was picking another one walking out the door. So that's helping making sure those clients are staying connected to services. She actually had an incident where it shows a little bit of the two-way street, kind of something that had happened. And Troy, you might be aware of this, but she went to meet with a client that was a referral from the police department. The client would not answer the door and made suicidal comments. So she was stuck in a precarious situation. So what she had to do, she actually had to call the police department to assist. Through the process of the police department, the person finally opened up the door. She was able to make arrangements with the individual to get into the counselor right away that day at HSA, and that the person would agree to go with her, that she could give her a ride. So basically, she relied on the police department. The two had to work together. It kind of went back and forth, so that was fantastic. But also, the overall is that prevented a hold. It was able to prevent that. But, it was that's the first time she's had to go back
Yeah.
to the PD and utilize them. So just wanted to share that. That was kind of a unique situation. Last Thursday, we did present at the Beacon Center about the services to their staff, what we provide. I do have NACO recap. This did not get into your packet. I apologize for that. Here, let's do this right.
I have some questions about this chart too, when we can come back to that.
Sure. So as far as, like I said, I apologize that I wasn't able to get this sent out. They have a new app, and my notes are in the app, and I'm having a hard time downloading it. The first page that you have basically kind of covers the Health Steering Committee, some of the information and the action items, along with the resolutions that we brought about through that. Couple highlights.
On the steering committee, how many people sit on that?
I would have to look that up. I want to say about 45. It's submitted, South Dakota, this county association submitted my name for that. It's not something I had asked to participate
The
in.
county association, the welfare directors did?
No. Chris Jacobson and Bob Wilcox did.
Because when I looked, there was 90 people from what I seen on this committee.
So, so then, the first 2 pages is about the Health Steering Committee information that we presented in the resolutions. Right now, obviously, nursing homes are a huge priority. There was also some other supports as far as rural emergency, in addition to the other resolutions that we have. We have the ongoing and joint with the safety justice as far as like the stepping up type stuff. One of the things that we talked about in one of the workshops, and I don't have them all down, I'm still struggling to get my notes, so I apologize. We did a supporting people with mental illness. They talked really about the criminal justice is about safety and it's not therapeutic. And that's really the whole purpose and premise of the Stepping Up, is to get people into that therapeutic setting that need it. But we also recognize we have to have safety and we have to address those criminogenic needs. But they talk about that too is because of that, especially with the competency evaluation, judges rarely turn down a competency evaluation for that reason. And after competency evaluation is over, it's out of sight, not of mind for the judge. So luckily in South Dakota, we had passed the legislation to have that done within 21 days. One of the things they recommended as a possible solution or something that would be beneficial and have a biggest impact would be to remove misdemeanors from the competency evaluations. The reason for that is you can get a charge through the process faster out of misdemeanor than if you have to go through the competency evaluations. A lot of people that we have get caught up in that system have misdemeanors. So, and I remember sitting on that task force. It was pretty important. A lot of times people will plead guilty just because they'll serve less time than if they're incompetent. So there's some things that we have within our system that actually harm people. So there was discussion about that. Set in on the National Association of County Human Services Administrator, a lot of discussion was about TANF. That did get through, but some concerns about things that are potentially happening with the TANF in the system, and then just updates what's going around through the different states, different things that they're seeing at that time. The behavioral health response systems and policies talks a lot about building facilities, and like Minnehaha's building theirs, that's way down the road for us. There was discussion on bail bonds. There was discussion about dealing with difficult topics. That was pretty good. They talked about trust, importance with transparency. Anything done behind closed doors can be hard for your constituents sometimes, or people that you're working with, to have that trust and understanding. Ben Carson, he was one of the speakers we had in the general section with Secretary, and some of his comments, of course opioids a big thing right now, but he talks about things that they're revisiting, things that they've done within the HUD department that has discouraged self-sufficiency, looking for that win-win. Often he said that procedures will be added on top of other procedures, and really we just need to, that doesn't work, we need to replace the old ones. I did like one of his comments. He said if you have 2 people in the room that agree, then one of them's not needed. But his purpose was, that statement was getting people with different ideas to be able to come together and talk about those different ideas. If you just have everybody that is all agreeable on the same page, you're maybe probably not working through the issue. So I thought that was a good point that he brought up, and I appreciated that.
Right on the NACO conference and the whole.
Yes.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. Was there any discussion about the Medicaid for inmates, and that was a resolution in the I don't know what happened to it, but I know I saw it in the Senate in the state legislature to encourage the federal government to
Yes, yes. And actually, there's a huge movement with the NACO's combining with the Sheriff's Association to actually work on that. What happens, what Lee is referring to is when a person is placed in jail, and this is when they're still innocent, their Medicaid is removed from them. There's a couple things we can do. Two, if they do get sentenced, you have an estate, and say South Dakota did switch, this is where you just suspend their Medicaid. So for example, if you're on disability, the only way you get Medicaid in South Dakota as an adult is if you have disability. So if you're on disability and you get sentenced, instead of terminating Medicaid, it's suspended. The difference is when that person's released, their Medicaid picks right back up. The benefits for that means they get their benefits, which is their only source of income typically, and then the stuff for the medications. And so those are things that actually help alleviate from the county, from my office, even if they're convicted. But what the consistently argument has been, people that are pre-trial are innocent till proven guilty,
exactly.
are losing their benefits.
There's a constitutional issue there.
Yeah, and so there's been a lot of movement. We've been working on this for quite a while, but you actually got the Sheriff's Associations on board, the National and NACO. So I do anticipate, I hope, really, it's exciting.
And
So yes,
this applies to
absolutely.
VA benefits as well. So, I mean, that's pretty, it's pretty weird. I mean,
Yeah.
when you think about it from a constitutional perspective, that somebody would go to jail, they're not guilty yet in
Right,
the system, and they lose all their benefits.
Right, and
So
that's
that's kind of,
been the whole argument. These are people that are innocent till proven guilty, but you're taking away their rights, they're taking away their benefits. Where that would benefit is people that are still in the jails. And the bond system is changing as well, too. There was discussion
hope,
about
yeah.
that, having a more equitable, that doesn't harm people
was there
that are
was there
poverty.
discussion about, say, like a risk assessment instrument for determining where the Pretrial Justice Institute talks a lot about basing, those kind of decisions just on risk as opposed to, tying it to a money amount.
Yes.
I realize that's kind of
Yes,
not
that's kind
a
of the
lot
direction that things are moving.
Feels that way, but
Yes,
there's only a
that's the
few
direction,
states.
that's encouragement. It's more about, is the individual a risk versus the cost? It's about safety. For example, you could have two people that commit the same crime, and here's kind of where people get stuck in the system. And we know that if you spend more than one day in jail, you already increase your chance of reoffending 40%. So if you have one individual who's in the jail that, let's say they are on disability, two same crimes, the bond is $1,000, one can afford it, he gets out, his life goes on, right? The guy that can't, or gal that can't, is stuck. Now, if they're on disability, they lose their benefits, they lose the medications, and all that.
Much more traumatic incident for them.
Yes, and then they're there for 14 days, possibly till their trial because of that. And so we're trying to prevent that. And then that increases the risk of recidivating. So the whole idea, and this is what NACO is so fantastic for us about, is because they're there helping us to advocate on the county level things that will actually help us to Congress. So if that individual, if it's the same crime, why is one having to be stuck in the jail? Just because they can't afford the bail. And so that's what they're looking at, is really, it's like you said, it's a constitutional violation of rights. And it's a disparity for those that are poor. And it escalates them being stuck into that system, because it's one day, I think, that you stay as 40%. And the statistics vary, depends on which report, but if it's more than 3 days to 5 days, it increases the likelihood to reoffend. So the longer you're in jail, that 3 days is very crucial, but after that, it even increases the likelihood that you recidivate. So the whole idea is to get those people out so that people that aren't a risk to safety.
There's only been a
These
few.
are only people that have mental illness, though, because they're
No,
the
no,
only
no,
ones
we're-
eligible
we're just-
for Medicaid, though, if you're talking about suspending
Yeah,
Medicaid.
well,
No, if you're disabled, if I was paralyzed and I was disability, I could be eligible for Medicaid. Disability covers a gamut of things. The mental illness is a high disparity, but this doesn't. The specific that Lee is referring to,
It's a
people in the
little bit
jail,
of- yeah, it's a different thing.
it encompasses those as well as anybody with any type of disability. Somebody with a veteran that's on a disabled veteran would lose every benefit they have if, let's say, a DUI and they couldn't afford to get out.
Does this include going to the veteran side of it? Does this include their housing benefits for those that are retired on low income?
Well, what happens is if you're on low-income housing, Depending on the crime, you'll probably just lose your housing altogether, most likely.
I'm sorry.
Most likely, that's a different basket, housing is, but most of your housings programs, HUD, it's actually not a HUD regulation as much as it is local regulations. HUD is a little bit more lax. HUD does have rules that say, that federal HUD says that if you're actually doing drugs or violent crime, you lose your housing, but most local places have criminal free, so they add to that. Very, very restrictive. So a lot of times what will happen is the moment somebody commits a crime, they will lose
They're
their
out.
housing benefit, period. So, because of the crime-free housing programs.
So if they're charged,
Not until, it's not if they're just charged, no, actually on the housing piece, it would have to be that it goes through, that they're actually convicted. But it can be convicted of, let's say, a DUI, it can be, HUD has the rule that it has to be on the premises of the drugs. If you get picked up for marijuana somewhere else, you could lose you will lose your housing.
so if you were convicted, or if you were charged and convicted of felony theft, you're kind of,
Yeah, and even misdemeanors, misdemeanors in our local jurisdiction, misdemeanors will do the same
thank you.
on that. So those are some good questions. So as far as that, you mentioned something, Lee, that brought up, we had the DDJ met, and one of the things I had been pushing for, their focus, of course, is on data, and we've recognized that we've got a long ways to go before we're at that
Yeah.
level of connecting to their data programs, but those are getting developed of access to that. But they are opening it up. Before they were talking about what we call friendly faces or familiar faces. That was their primary focus, but
Yeah.
now they're looking at it, the lower risk individuals as well. How can we catch these people in the beginning? So
They-
they're expanding their scope, so that actually might help
Yeah.
us a little bit in
Well,
what we're working
We
on.
heard about an initiative called Open Lattice,
Yep.
and we got a demonstration, but it looked still kind of like a lot of
It's the
input
same
on
that
our-
I had presented prior, but it was before they called it Open Lattice. At the time that I had presented about it, and we had the GovLab people,
Okay.
that's the same program, they just didn't have a vendor, and they've changed the
How do
name.
I think we want to be on board so that if the opportunity arises, but it looks like.
We are on that committee, yes.
So we're on, okay.
Yeah, and
So when it's-
Minnehaha is moving forward. That, what we had looked at, if you recall, with the stepping up stuff is, we have to first get our local data, because we can't really connect to that Open Lattice
Yeah.
until we have our, especially the Zurcher program has amazing data
It does, but it
capabilities
takes-
that we have to expand
it-
on. And
yeah.
IT, yes, it's a mountain.
It does, but
I'm not objecting to that. I call it a glacier movement, right? We're making some big changes. We don't have IT staff, so the way we go about it will take a little bit longer. But what I can speak to at this last meeting, it was really nice to not feel like I was drinking out of a fire hose, okay, with information, but to be able to say, we are there. We are there right with everybody else. So we're not light years behind, and everybody else wants to be 100 miles ahead, but we're there and we're making good progress, good milestones, and the whole movement. So as things move forward, we'll be there. I truly believe we will be there with that to be able to continue those changes.
And just to back up what Sarah said, a couple of NACO Stepping Up webinars I've listened to in the past, and this is a while ago, I was always surprised to hear that you have these huge counties out in some other states saying, we haven't figured out the data yet. And it's because it's just such a, particularly in the mental health and the jail intersection, it's a tough nut to crack. So
That was what we learned at the White House when we went to the White House, was that we aren't alone without data. Some of your biggest, largest counties aren't there either. That was something that was recognized as a need, and that's kind of where that Open Lattice piece came from, was that counties aren't capturing data like we should. Private entities do great. Government, not so much. And that's the federal level too. So, and that was the same with the state task force. We didn't have data, and so how do you make informed decisions without that?
I think that one of the things that would help a lot, almost any county anywhere, is if these folks could kind of give a standard way to get into a program like Zurcher and say this is the methodology you need these fields. I mean, getting into the nitnoids of it, but just
There was a recent, something that just came out recent. Let me pull that up, and
Yeah.
if you don't hear
All
from
right.
me by Friday, I'll forward you that information.
Sure.
Because they're breaking that down, because that was a piece. You know, we had the 8 questions. Now they're
Mm-hmm.
breaking down the data piece, because that's what we were asking. We need more guidance. We need more guidance on the data. So we did ask for that, NACO, people from NACO and stuff, and I do believe that has made some progress. There was something that came across in an email last week.
Yeah.
I thought, let me double check that.
Okay.
But that kind of broke it down a little bit more. Before it was so ambiguous, it was hard to apply. I don't know if you recall, like,
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Reese, it was so ambiguous that it was like, well, how does that apply to us? But recently they just came out, or maybe I saw it on a SAMHSA site, about how you can apply it more locally within, and then within the
It could just
Zurcher.
be, how do you create a report format in Zurcher? It could be something that simple, and
Yeah.
and what fields do you grab?
And I would talk to, have you worked with Sheriff Tom and Pennington with their
Talked to him
Zurcher?
some, a few times,
Okay,
yeah.
they have a wonderful data person that's great to
Yeah,
connect with.
yeah.
It's just that we have to have someone on our end to
Yeah.
connect those
Yeah.
pieces.
So where are we at with stepping up right now?
There's 3.
Well, I guess the big thing, that's a good question. Or you want to, I don't know if you want to answer that, Sarah, but right now it'll be interesting to see how it comes out with the new healthcare thing.
think
'Cause the
once we
pilot,
get that,
the
yeah.
pilot that we were doing, I mean, on the one hand, we were gathering some data on our own to try to get prevalence data, and we got a general idea, through the stuff that HSA's person was helping us with as they went through the screenings and the assessments, and then at the same time you had this pilot program going on with the I guess was that part of the UJS's task
Yep.
force,
Yeah.
and where
In the state.
yeah, where we had the same person from our jail communicating with the judge to help with some of the initial hearings, and so pre-competency. I mean,
There's been, since this program has started, we've done the screening piece of it. We're identifying what's out there. A piece, that component that probably would be beneficial, it would be the case management within the jail. That was a recommendation that's made, and I think we'll take a look at that as, it's always getting that piece. We've added the pre-diversion a little bit with the deflection program. The state component of it with UJS, we've changed statutes, we've changed laws, and we've reduced competency. If you have seen Chief Justice's report this last year, there was some significant information, but we identified even at the state level, we don't have the data. So that's where we're at right now, and it just takes a while for us to
The
compile
one-
that data, and we're working on that.
One thing
UJS is working on
One thing I
that.
think would be helpful is, and I can talk to you and the sheriff about it, is they're taking this, somewhere, the UJS is using some of that data from the screenings and seeing what it looks like to them, I
Yep.
think, because I kind of know what it looks like to us,
Yep.
and it's
And
as
then
novices, but.
Judge McCann is doing some, it's very minimal, but there is some times where he's releasing individuals on mental health bonds, which means that instead of coming, so we worked with the state, we met, they've got a form basically as if that person is a high screen, is recommended by the mental health professional, that they would benefit from services, or that's the primary force that's working with them. Judge McCann has done some mental health bonds, so instead of cash bond, they have to get evaluations. So we've added that. The numbers, the amounts are small, which is good. It gives us time to adjust. But so those are things. So right now we're really just working with the stuff that we're doing.
And I think there's a good, to finish answering Commissioner Hannon's question, I think the next big thing is kind of working through a better, like, codification of a warm handout from when somebody gets out of the
Yes,
jail, and
absolutely.
what all the resources they can plug into. And your transitional housing thing is a great example, to where there's all these things,
Right.
that, and kind of I think the belly button kind of needs to be the welfare office in most cases. I mean, that's what
We
that's what
work
it's there
with
for.
individuals like parole. Sometimes when they get out, probation is sending some individuals to us if they have
Yeah.
that homeless, and we provide that case management. So that's when they have the needs. When the needs go beyond the wraparound, beyond just the criminal and the wraparound services, our office provides that. We do need to work on the criminogenics. So someone with a mental illness that's in the jail also has criminogenic issues, and we're not addressing that. So that's something we do need to work on. But we are, it's slow. It's progress, and we're doing good, but it does take a lot. We'd love to just be able to whip it all together, but if we had a couple million, we probably could. Just going to move on. I just passed out some information. Most of it is for you just to review. It's intriguing. I like data. The Food Research and Action Center in South Dakota put together some information about hunger, poverty, federal nutrition programs. I thought it's just useful information for you guys to have when you're visiting with people. Very few things I want to highlight. Income and poverty. Median household income in South Dakota is $56,000. What's interesting is if you took the minimum wage, that's for one individual, that's about $19,000 a year. Take that times 2, that's about $30,800. So just to know that if a household has 2 working adults at minimum wage, they are below the median income. Poverty rate is up from 10% that it was at 2 years ago, so we're at 13%. We're still not horribly bad, but that is an increase. On the last page, or the back of your page, a couple things. The SNAP program, we've seen a reduction in those services, which we anticipated as we continue to see the recovery from the recession. The one thing I want to highlight that is the WIC program. That has seen a reduction of 31.8%. I think the WIC program is a fantastic program, not just besides what they provide education. So, just being aware of that reduction in that. The bottom of the page, something I wanted to talk about was the TANF, Temporary Assistance to Needy Families program. If you can notice that a single parent with a family of 3 receives $615. The reason I bring this up is because so many times if someone asks me what I do and I give my job description, I'm so tired of people making it rich or doing wealthy on the welfare system, living off the welfare system. I'm sure we've all heard that. Well, I want to just give you information that provides the other. I don't know how you would get wealthy off the welfare system. The only benefit we have in the state of South Dakota for a single adult outside of disability or anything would be that TANF program. If you're a single parent and you have 3 children, so the maximum you're going to receive is $615. It's unearned income, so that means you're going to pay more for your rent. You're going to have a reduction in your food stamps. So somebody getting that $615 would pay in expenses for rent, utilities, and food. By the time they paid that, would have $200 in cash to provide for those people. I do not see how on earth that you are getting wealthy off the system. The other thing that people need to understand is the moment you have more than $615 in your household, you do not get that benefit, period. If you get that in child support or anything, that benefit is gone. We have a very minimum low amount that it doesn't even probably meet the basic need. I can't imagine having three kids, $200, having to pay for my phone bill, having to pay for, nowadays with school, if you don't have internet, you've got to go to the library, paying for my gas, car insurance, much less supplies. It's a very, very minimal amount. So I would argue that people do not get out rich off the welfare system in the state of South Dakota. So I just bring it up for that. If anybody says that to you, you try it.
There's the data, there's the numbers right there.
So, okay.
So back to the charts.
Yes.
I was looking at some of these. So when you do referrals to other agencies, those are individuals that you have denied in your office. Is that correct?
We're an optional last resort. We don't deny them. We refer them out, and if they get denied elsewhere, they can come back. But a lot of times, so that they don't have to do a lot of legwork, we will so we follow up with them. So for example, if someone comes in, the energy assistance, we do the applications right there. We send them into the state of South Dakota. We're following with them. If they get denied for some reason, then we take it back to look to see if there's something we can do. Cottington County has in our policies we're the optional last resort, so we're looking to those other services. So for example, if we refer somebody to, these are things that are available to them that alleviate the need for county, could potentially alleviate the county need for assistance, but we always follow up to make sure. So for example, if we refer somebody to ICAP and they're not eligible, and the reason might be is one, they're out of funds, or 2, they've had received assistance from them in the last 2 years, then we take a look at them. A lot of times we'll call just to see, make sure the funds are there. We keep up to date on that. Salvation Army, if it's just a matter that they're out of funds, then we don't. But we refer to those are the services that they're actually referred to, that they actually receive those benefits, and I dropped a paper clip. So when we're referring them, that's referring to people that are referred to benefits that are able to help, like the Veterans Program. It's such a small number, it shows up as 0%, but that is my favorite program. I get so excited if someone's eligible for that because the Veterans has a wonderful ESG grant. They get some exceptions. If we're able to get them on Social Security, we do that. That's income. If we're able to get them a job type thing. So there are programs that we refer people to that actually catch them instead of the county. So, but we follow through with them to make sure that those.
Because, like, so if you're following through with them, like in February, there was, you just had savings under housing and homeless and transportation and utilities. So evidently then they didn't come back, or?
We still refer individuals who don't qualify for our services, but we only count for savings if they would have qualified for our service. So if you come to my office and you're asking for help with utilities, but you're over income R program, we will still help you with the energy assistance. They have a higher guideline, but we don't count that as a savings because we wouldn't have helped them. We only count it as if energy assistance wasn't there, we would have to pay for that. So like right now, you can't apply for energy assistance. So let's say you might have been eligible income-wise, but you didn't apply by March 31st. So let's say March 15th, you applied for energy assistance, and you were eligible for county if you would have been denied energy assistance, which you shouldn't have been, but then we count that as a savings. But if it's a program that you're over income for county assistance, we still provide the case management to alleviate that need, but that's not a savings to the county because you wouldn't have been eligible anyways. Someone that comes in on income-based housing, they're not eligible for county assistance, but we still refer them to ICAP. So that is not a savings to the county. It's only a savings if you would be eligible for our program and we were able to alleviate that through another program. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So this ESG client, can you explain that, please?
What do you want me to, we're
What-
working with, what do you,
Yeah. What is it? What's going on with the ESG client?
Yep, we work with, so these are people that probably would have been eligible for county assistance or maybe not, but we work with the Beacon Center. They provide the services for people on ESG for individuals who domestic violence, sexual assault. We provide for those who are homeless or preventative homeless.
So
But they have the
apply for
funds.
the grant,
They have for years, yeah.
and then you're managing that.
We are working with the clientele with them, yep, just the client.
So
But we take all the paperwork and send it to them and they submit it,
But you're doing the case management.
yes. And then it's gift in kind to the Beacon Center.
All right.
I think
Any
these are
other
wonderful
questions?
numbers, Sarah. Good job.
A lot of information this morning.
I appreciate the discussion.
Thank you, Sarah.
I like the NACO wrap-up. That's good.
All right, that's, thank you, Jody, for being patient and waiting.
Mine's different. Yeah, it's NACO, it's not the LUDG, it's the annual.
Good morning, Jody.
Good morning.
Morning, Jody.
Morning, Joe.
Morning. Just going to give you a few highlights. Our kids are still meeting with 4-H archery, BB gun, and air pistol. We have quite a few more kids in BB gun and air pistol that have qualified for state than in the past, so that's great.
Hold on,
Good.
Jody. Sarah might want to stay because we will be going over
Sarah?
our travel budget to go to another NACO conference, and I have some
Oh,
questions.
yeah, you can stay for that.
Sorry,
Well,
Jody.
stay, we'll get down to the travel budget here.
All right, and then our state shoot that they participate in is April 26th, 27th, and 28th in Fort Pierre. This is as large as the state fair, just about, for the kids that come across the state to participate in the state shoot. We get a lot more kids from Rapid City and that area to participate in the state shoot. Youth have until April 15th to qualify for the state shoot, but times start to disappear because this is all on a computer, so you kind of want to qualify early. We recently received a grant from the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation for our BB gun program, and then an anonymous grant from an employer for our archery program. So that's great to have those funds to use for our kids to improve some of our equipment that we have that is aging. Kim Johnson, our secretary, will be attending our fair entry and 4-H online training in Aberdeen on Thursday, April 4th. This is required for all county offices to go to. They've had them throughout the state. And the closest one to us was either Sioux Falls or Aberdeen, and this one worked the best for our schedules. Yesterday, I started Agro Readers Nutrition Program in Florence, so I'm going out there on Mondays for 5 weeks and do some nutrition programming in their PE classes. And then yesterday, we started our Character All-Stars program. Due to all the snowy weather that we've had, we finally got able to get into the classroom, and plus they got done with their sports seasons a little bit. So we have 2 Character All-Stars, Mikkel Sprung and Brianna Jorgensen. They were chosen by their school in Florence, and they're teaching character lessons in the classroom in 3rd and 4th grade this year. And then in Waverly, Sarah Teen was our South Dakota 4-H Character All-Star. And so we'll be teaching, we're still scheduling those dates in Waverly right now. But they just got done with all their state tournament stuff, so we're just kind of working on getting dates now. This is part of, it used to be the Hometown Heroes, but we've changed it to South Dakota Character All-Stars. And then we're teaching a program called Character Links, and we're linking all the different character traits that you need to possess. So that's what they're working on right now. And so we started yesterday with them. Yesterday our word was honesty, and where we need honesty at. So this month is, they just opened yesterday. We can start registering for our 4-H camps and our Teen Leadership Conference in Brookings. And so they have till the end of the month, and I'm busy working on some summer programming and things like that. So
How's
And this-
enrollment? Wrap that up yet?
still waiting for kids to finish up enrolling. They have till May 31st to enroll. I've conducted 2 YQCA Youth Quality Care of Animals programs already in Florence and Waverly, and then we have one more in Watertown coming up in May. And if I have to, we'll hold another one just in case we missed a few kids. But they need to attend that to exhibit animals this year. So not just for, it used to be just PQA for pork quality assurance, and now it's for all youth that show animals. So learning all the ropes of leading,
Good, Jody.
showing.
Any questions for Jody?
Great
So,
programs.
I attended the NRCS meeting on Monday, and something that they're trying to get going is a garden project.
I just heard about that yesterday in an
Okay, did
email.
Nicole-
She did email
okay.
me, yeah.
I said maybe she should reach out to you, because so far we haven't had any individuals come forward and say, that they're interested. But I said maybe we can link up with 4-H kids.
And I told her I had a really good Texas curriculum, if the Junior Master Gardener curriculum that I have in my office from a national conference. We just don't have a garden space out. We don't have a garden space out, by our place out there. And we tried at Joy Ranch one year too, but just to get kids in the summertime, they're busy. But maybe this would be a good opportunity to work with them.
So good.
Good. Any other questions for Jody? Anything else? Thank you, Jody.
Yep, thanks.
Thanks, Jody.
Have a good week. All right, Rick. Highway Super, let's go on to item number 6, action to approve the 2019 county pavement marking road striping agreement, and that is in your packet as well. Go ahead, Rick.
This is to make sure all of our county roads that we chip seal or pave have pavement markings on them. It's a 80-20 split with the state, so
I'll make a motion to approve the pavement marking agreement.
We have a
Second.
motion by Hatton, a second by Waterman. Any discussion?
So there's 36 miles is what you're anticipating this
yeah,
year,
roughly it'll be maybe a little more, maybe a little less.
depending on whether what you're able to get done.
Yep, and what's left in the budget.
So our cost, Brick, would be 30,000,
Yeah,
111.
And that's budgeted.
yes.
And it's pretty normal with what we've been doing in the
Yep.
past.
Yep.
Very good.
Mr.
Any
Chairman,
more discussion?
Just,
Go ahead.
just a quick question. So I understand the structure of the grant. So the limit of the program limit is that $500,000 statewide, is that the way? Or, okay, so that, and our portion of that is the 60/40, so what does that come to? About a little over 14,000,
Yeah, it,
right?
It says 14,506, so it's Schedule
Where is it?
A.
but that, it's usually more than that.
Okay, yeah, so the more than that, basically is we have to cover the 100%, so.
Okay, any more questions in this particular topic? We have a motion and a second on the floor. Any more
Just
discussion?
one
more.
So the state's contribution, is that from SB 1 a few years ago, or is that something that's, I just refreshed my memory from
No,
many.
that one I can't answer that. I'd
Okay,
have to
all
go
right,
back.
never mind.
And I don't think it is.
And I will let you know
I think it's been there a while.
what we,
Yeah.
Been there a long time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what we paid last year for miles and stuff. I'll let you know that.
okay.
I should have wrote that down when we had it last year, and I forgot about it.
It all hinges on the miles, which
Yeah,
is,
I'm not worried about it, I just want to make sure I understand it, so.
Any more discussion? Any more? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. All right, let's go right on to the asphalt mat construction action to approve a notice to bidders for asphalt. This is just a...
item number 7.
It's the
All
road
right,
haul
we do
agreement.
number 7, haul road agreement. Action to approve a haul road agreement with Next Era Energy Crown Ridge. And Rick, go ahead with that.
This is basically the same agreement that we gave to Apex, except we added a few, a gravel spec to it. I don't know if you have a copy of it. I
We
can make
don't
you a
have
copy or email it to you.
We've seen it.
So basically, it's the same that we gave to Apex, but it does have a specific gravel for the finish.
A rate of the gravel rating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll
So
make
when-
them, oh, go ahead.
So when they finish, this will be put over the top, so we'll be able to blade it. It'll be the same thing that we use.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Hanton to approve, a second by Gable. Any more discussion? Any more discussion?
This is the one that we had Banner go in and redo.
Right,
so.
yeah.
Yep.
Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Okay, then, let's go on to number 8. Number 8, no. Number-
Yes,
yeah.
number 8.
Action to approve a notice to bidders for asphalt mat construction, and that's in your packet. You want to do any explanation on that?
This is approximately 6 miles that we're going to do on, what would be 4th Avenue, it would be our County Road 14, 15, 17, 5, out by the prop. It's going to be a mill and an overlay.
I don't know if any of you have driven that lately, but it's in need.
I'll
Yes.
make a motion to approve that notice.
Motion by Van Duzen,
Second.
second by Gable. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Other than the fact that I said I was just up the road there yesterday or the day before, and it's rougher than a cob. It needs it.
Yeah, it's rough.
In fact, all 4th Avenue needs it, really. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. All right. Let's see, we got anything else for you, Rick?
I think that's it, other than a little update on my roads that I have closed.
Yeah, go ahead.
Right now, I've got 5 sections of road closed. They're not, most of them are just a mile, some of them are 2 miles, where we had to close off a section where they could get around, but we're in the process today of trying to get 2 more sections opened back up. County Road 4, east of County Road 11. We're gonna get that opened back up. There's a section of 25A over by Wallace. There's a mile that we're gonna get opened back up. But we still have miles that are gonna be closed. Yesterday we got a call from a person that lived on County Road 2 that there was a hole. So we went up there, sure enough, there was a hole. Then all at once, the whole road was open. So there's still frost in the roads. We're gonna turn the heat up this weekend to hopefully try and cook some of that out of there, but it's gonna take a while, so our roads are soft. So if you're hauling on them, be very careful.
Rick, do we have any roads right now that are asphalt roads that have given away because of the flooding
No, at the time
conditions?
we do not.
Okay.
But the asphalt asphalt usually takes longer to have something happen to it before the gravel, because
It's probably underneath it, right?
Yep, it
that we have to
holds
worry about.
the cold underneath it, and then the asphalt carries it, and then all at once it just drops.
Drops off.
So, yeah.
Did
Yeah,
you
it's-
do a little emergency repairs on that spillway or on that culvert on Sioux Conifer?
Yeah, we added a little reground material because it was washed on the shoulder to get that open back up. There's a short stretch in there that we had to do a little work to.
That didn't wash as bad as I thought it might.
No, that
pretty good.
That stayed pretty good.
Yeah.
I went with Rick last Friday. Kind of went around the tour, and then that other road that was a little further north in between, that one is still closed, correct?
That
Because
one,
of
that
where-
one got opened back up
That one
yesterday.
did? Okay.
And they put gravel on it today.
Where that had all
Yep.
washed off, okay.
Yes.
All
I
right.
think the thing that we have to remind the people out there is that there's some farmers that are wanting to haul some grain, and better be very, very careful.
Yes.
The road limits are on, but on these township roads, like you said, some of this gravel, some of these township roads, I mean, they could just give away. Very, very serious. And the farmers out there are pretty much aware of what, and they got a pretty good idea where the bad spots are on
Yeah,
the roads.
most are pretty good
Yeah,
about not hauling if they don't have to,
yeah,
so.
yeah.
That's
All
why
right.
the pressure was on earlier.
Any other questions for Rick? Thank you, Rick. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
All right, let's go on, get back on track here. Item number 10, that's the presentation of rising damp study. You got a damp study report? Milo? Good morning, Milo.
I have the damn study.
And that is in your packet as well. There is a separate.
Good morning.
Morning, Milo.
Okay, everyone should have a copy of the report that I received from Reno Dry. They were actually on site, and I took them on a tour of our courthouse and showed them some problem areas that I thought, that I felt was a problem area. I'm not going to go through this 22-page report, but I can refer to it. You know, if anyone has any questions, please get in touch with me. Basically, you know, a long story short, they went around the entire basement with a hydrometer and tested the moisture in the walls. And the whole idea of damp rise is, you know, it acts as a wick that brings moisture from the ground up. And a lot of the visible damage that you can see, and there are some pictures included, but you'll see like a salt type residue, you know, on the inside of the walls, and actually that's exactly what it is. Is you know, chloride coming through. So that's what it is.
Milo, I've had a chance to read through this report, and I think there's a lot of good information in here, and scientifically, it makes sense that we address this issue. Was this something that we reached out to them, or did they come and reach out to us?
They reached out to us initially. I did some research on the company and on the subject of rising damp, and it is a real thing. It's not something that was invented.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, you can tell in the mortar and the concrete and stuff, the bricks, that they're over time they just
Yeah.
melt away
The
because of
technology that they're using to address this problem is, I don't know, way out there is the wrong words probably, but it's, you almost have to be a scientist to understand what's going on there. But there are numerous counties in Minnesota using this technology, some colleges, you know, and specifically older buildings such as ours, you know, using this technology, and apparently it does work. There are contacts in here where if anyone felt the need to actually talk to somebody, you know, they can make some phone calls and you know, get some questions answered about the system itself.
So,
Now, my recommendation is, I think this is a good thing to pursue. my plans are to include it in my 2020 budget, you know, for consideration at that time. You know, if this is something, you know, that anybody wants to pursue sooner than that, you know, then they would have to let me know and we'll go accordingly.
And just so people understand the hydrometer here as I read it, readings of less than 70 indicate normal to slightly above normal levels of moisture present. Reading above 70 demonstrate excessive levels of moisture, and readings in excess of 100 indicate extreme moisture levels in the masonry. When they did the study in the basement of the courthouse, I assume,
Yes.
the hydrometer reading was 132, and that was 6 feet up on the wall. That wasn't the base, so it's going to be higher at the base. So, I think it's something we should investigate just to preserve our foundation of our
Absolutely.
courthouse.
You know, and I do have a project estimate on here to address this project, and we're looking at less than $15,000 at this point. You know, so like I said, my plans would be to include this, you know, in my budget request for 2020. And
Do you know, Mr. Chairman, just a question on, what do they exactly do? Do they put some instrumentation in there that sucks moisture out, or what? happens?
You know, here now we get into the scientific stuff. You know, they actually use radio waves, and the frequency of the radio waves does something to the molecular structure of water, moisture. Okay. Now, I'm not going to go any further than that, because I might as well be talking about, you know, space flight, because it's way out of my realm.
This is
White
the-
saucer.
Sounds like they microwave the walls.
And it sounds like it's a giant dehumidifier system.
Yeah.
Basically,
That's
that
what
gets
it
into the concrete. The system, it says, will keep the building free from rising damp for many, many decades. Once installed, there are no ongoing cost or maintenance expense. So we're looking at about $14,600 to do that.
Wonder how long it takes for it to get it under control.
Well, they said 3 years here somewhere, I thought 1 to 3 years, something like that, depending on the dampness. I think in the new buildings, now, correct me if I'm wrong, if you look at the exterior, you see wicks coming out of the building. Is that what that's for? Is the moisture within
I think
the
it's
concrete?
in some of the,
You've seen the
like,
wicks before.
yeah, like a stucco, like an exterior, you know, an exterior kind of finish that uses stucco, or, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, veneer, masonry veneer, yeah, sometimes I think they do that, but I'm not an expert, so.
Is this
Well-
on all the walls downstairs in the basement?
It varies, you know, literally every foot. You know, our major problems are in the southwest corner of the courthouse, you know, where you actually physically see moisture at times, you know, but we have, there's pictures in there that shows the
Do we ever get water?
buildup on the walls.
Do we ever
Yeah.
actually get water in the basement?
On occasion,
In which corner?
something that would be in that southwest corner. You know, and it's not a lot, but some.
So we have to think back, okay, if we're going to do this, we have to, is there anything in the exterior that we need to do to prevent the water from, you know, so we're not just repeating ourselves? You know, fix
Yeah.
the outside or the exterior where the water's coming in before we do something like this, just in that step.
You know,
One step before the
those
other
kind of
step.
steps, you're probably looking at, you know, tiling.
Sandbags?
I don't want to go there either. I've seen enough sandbags to last me a lifetime, but.
No,
So-
Milo, I guess, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
I guess I would, you know, encourage you to reach out to, like, this observatory in Minnesota in Northfield and see what type of response they've had.
Right.
And what their thoughts are. This picture
I
is
did
from that.
talk to
and-
one of the county courthouses that they had listed, that, you know, and they actually felt that they seen results, you know, the first season.
What county? Mind if I?
I don't remember which one it was. I'd have to go back to my
It
notes.
might, be more noticeable the first season, and then it's kind of gradual thing after that. we think.
And they said, it's not something that you notice
Tomorrow.
the next day, like a sump pump. It's just-
Well, my read is that Milo's requesting the permission to put it on the agenda, or on the agenda in the budget for the 2020 budget. And in the meantime, he will make some contacts with some of those that are using it to find out what the results are. Is that my understanding?
Yes.
I don't want to read anything into this, and I don't think we need a motion to do this. I think we can do this with just a consensus of the board.
It's just a presentation.
And that's all we can do with that. You're looking at me, Harley?
Yes, I am, Mr. Johnson. You brought up a very good point. This, and I can follow this in my mind, but you said the moisture in the basement and solving that problem. Shouldn't that be part of this also to
Sure.
be put in our budget?
Step one.
Yeah,
What is it?
I think that's what Milo's intent is to work. You're trying to get the facts together so you can put it in your.
Do we abate the water first and then go do the? do
There's,
this?
as far as abating the water, I don't feel that that's an issue. I mean, the amount that we get in the basement, I've seen it maybe twice in 19 years I've been up here, and we're probably talking 5 gallons or less.
So in the life of the courthouse, 100 years, that would be 10% of the time.
I guess if you look at it that way, yeah. Well, I guess what we could say is that Milo could have the grounds crew investigate to find out if there's anything that we can do on the exterior that's causing the leakage.
Are we-
And repair it.
Sorry.
That-
Are we having leakage, or is it just condensation coming off the brick? I mean, it doesn't
I
sound
can't
like it's a
tell you
huge
that.
problem.
We have never been able to identify where that water come from. When it did happen is when, both times we had like a 3-inch rain, in a relatively short amount of time.
I'll tell you what, if anybody didn't, a couple of those 3 or 4 inch rains, I think a lot of people had little leakage they never realized they ever had before. I know I did. Yeah, that's for sure. Well, okay, Mario, I guess that we would proceed with that, granting you the permission to review that, look at it, and bring it in your budget in 2020.
Okay, thank you.
2020, just around the corner, people.
While I'm here, I'll just mention, the flooding and how is it impacting Memorial Park. We did not have any roads covered at the park, but we do have water up on our land. It was right up to the road, so all of our lakeside lots are currently underwater.
They're not lakeside lots, they're
Yeah,
lake
now
lots.
they're lake lots.
Yeah, they're in the lake, yeah.
But also, I've seen progress on the water receding already.
Good.
And I was out there the other day and took a tour. I think everybody, including us out at the lake, are concerned about the wind. The ice could wreck a lot of things, and we just hope that we can get that slush, before
Yeah,
the wind blows, so, because the wind will blow.
the wind will blow.
Yeah. All right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Milo.
Thanks, Milo.
All right, let's go on to number 11, then, action on change order submitted for courthouse remodel project. Is there any this week?
None, Mr. Chairman.
All right, good. Number 12, action to approve claims for payment. Jody, what we got?
We have one claim. It's the January 911 surcharge collections for the city. It's $23,485.39.
Make a motion. Second.
We have a motion by Hatton, second by Van Duzen. Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Any budget supplements this month, this week?
None that I have.
All right, and personnel changes, I know there's one.
Yep, one for Steve Mullengraf. It's his anniversary step increase. See, he will go to $22.37 an hour, $3,892.38 a month.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Hatton, a second by Waterman. Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Travel requests, we have several of those. Go ahead, Jody. The first
Okay.
one is the welfare, and I know apparently Commissioner Hatton has some questions.
Can we do these separately?
You can do them separately.
The Steve's?
Yep, there's a couple for Steve Mullengraff and then one for Sarah.
Well, we can. Do we have to? Let's do Sarah's first. And it's a request for the NACO annual conference.
Make a motion to approve.
There's a motion by Gable to approve
I would
I
second.
have
and a
some
second by Waterman. Discussion.
So Sarah may want to come up here. I guess I have some questions I'd like to have answered.
Sarah, will you come up, please?
So I guess I have a few questions. You said you're on the steering committee. Is that correct? And there's several individuals on that committee besides yourself.
I'm the only one from South Dakota.
Right. But with South Dakota, we're very limited on the Medicaid of what we give out. We determined that already. How many years have you been doing both of these?
Both of them.
Both conferences? You go to the Ledge one, which you just got back from, and now the annual.
I would have to pull that information. I don't even know how many years I've been on the committee. I was asked to serve on it when I was the president of the Welfare Association. Paul Beto was the current NACO advisor there, asked me to consider that, and Chris Jacobson made the recommendation. I can't remember. I don't know the dates, and I don't know how many years. In order to vote on the resolutions that they bring forward, you have to be present. And some of the things originally when I was there at the Affordable Care Act, one of the things when we recognized that the Affordable Care Act was going to go through, we would have some meetings, and one of the suggestions I had with language prevented the state from prevented the state from passing on, if they didn't expand Medicaid, those costs to the county. If we wouldn't have added that language, we could have seen an increase in our counties for costs of medical services. And when you're at the meetings like this last time, we did have a resolution on nursing home that had some language that was questionable about the impact. So there was a vote taken on that it didn't pass through the board. The NACO board approves. We address issues. Sometimes the issues cover more direct. We have several, last year, 7 out of the 10 resolutions that NACO lobbies for the counties came from the Health Steering Committee. You're at the table. I know it's important to have that there. So
So are you talking specifically the Ledge Conference or the annual?
both. We do both.
Because from what I understand, you can still be on that committee and they have monthly or bi-monthly call-ins so that you can stay abreast of all these sorts of issues as well.
Yes, I do participate those, and then the letter that came out that I sent with the last travel request says one of the requirements is to be at those meetings. I think it's a good idea to always be present and be there, so
Wasn't
you don't
there
lose your spot.
information that came out that you had to be at 2 meetings a year? Is that part of being on that board?
That's what they ask, yes.
Well, I talked to a lady that she asked if I wanted to be on it, and I said, well, I couldn't justify going every year as a commissioner. And she said, oh, well, you do not have to attend these conferences to be on those committees. So I
It came in the letter. I just presented the
It might
letter.
depend on the bylaws of a particular committee. Are you talking about the same committee, Commissioner Hanton?
No, she just is, in general, asked if I wanted to be on a committee, and I said I can't justify it, paying that to go all the time. because when we look at it, so when Sarah attends both conferences, it comes to, where did I write that down at? The other one was 3,003, okay, here it is. So for both of them, it is costing the county $5,565 for her to go. What are we getting in return for that, first of all? And second of all, when you look at what we allocated for the care of the poor last year, the total amount is $2,375.94. I have a hard time sending someone to conference that costs the county more than what we're allocating to our care of the poor.
When you say care of the poor, I'm guessing that's the...
This was the annual report that Sarah gave us.
Right. And if to equate it to the monthly report, and tell me if I'm wrong, Sarah, that amount is basically what we spend when we don't refer somebody to services, or they have to come back to the county. We actually have to assist them in some way directly. Is that correct?
Right, it's like the NACO. So when I first started the job, I think Cottington County was spending close to $100,000 in care of poor. Some of what this does will safeguard that, like I said, with the Affordable Care Act. If we wouldn't have that legislation added at the federal level, the states could have passed costs to the county. It also provides, what it provides for is a voice at the table to, when we make those resolutions, that's what NACO advocates at the federal level. But also on the state level, it's really created a great relationship. I worked very closely with Kim Olsen-Reisen because we're not a state. The state operates those funds. We can say, okay, here's what they're proposing. What are you, where's your viewpoint? So we actually, it helps collaborate within the state. So it's an overall overarching benefit. It doesn't just benefit Cottington County, it benefits the state of South Dakota.
And also, I think there's other benefits too that help you with some of the best. They keep us connected with the best practices that are going on in counties throughout the country, which helps us to not spend that $100,000 and and save those, 98,000 or whatever it is by not having to provide that directly to the care of the poor.
Sometimes you learn what you maybe think is a good idea, what didn't work somewhere else, and it can prevent a catastrophe type thing. But it also keeps us abreast. For example, if when we were sitting on the Reimagine HHS committee, it was trying to reduce or help the paperwork so it's not so redundant. So the programs that other agencies use, like ESG, we know we have a huge just difficulty in being able to access that. So what are ways that your county, cities, and states can access those funds? And rural communities really have a struggle on how do you have to provide the same needs in Cottington County as you do for Chicago. It's just at a smaller scale. But the majority of the counties in the state are considered semi-rural. What is considered rural to NACO is a little bit bigger than what I would consider rural. So I wouldn't ask if I didn't think there was a benefit from it. I think we benefit as a county. I think we benefit as a state. And I think we benefit as a nation to have that representation.
Okay, now this is you have it in your budget.
Yes.
It is a budgeted item, so that we approved your budget earlier.
But I still come down to the fact, to wrap this up, last year's budget was $4,500. This year is travel budget alone for the welfare department is $8,350. I don't know what we're doing. When we're only spending $2,375, these are actual costs of what we gave to individuals allocated out for care of the poor. There's something wrong with that picture, in my opinion, and you can say, but anyway, in my opinion, I have a problem with that. I would say choose one or the other, not both, because you can still go get those call-ins and have the bi-monthly and monthly call-ins and get your information. One person on that board, one time missing, isn't going to necessarily mean that some of those things still wouldn't happen if you were there or weren't there.
Well, at this point in time, you've heard the request from Sarah for the travel. We've had some good discussion. We have a motion and a second. Go ahead.
I just have one more question. Sarah, not to critique your estimated expenses here, but You have $50 down for luggage, and you have 350 in that blank, is that correct? I mean, that would be a lot of bags if you're checking.
No, I think
No, it's 300 plus 50 for the
Yeah,
luggage, I think.
300 plus $50 for the luggage.
So it's
It was 350.
300.
Airfare.
Airfare and luggage.
Oh, that's the total, okay, I'm sorry. Because I thought you were taking like 8 bags with you, okay. All right,
Okay, is there any other discussion?
no.
Any other discussion? Any other discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
No.
Motion carries. All right, Sarah? All right, let's go on to the other requests. There's 2 by Steve Mullengraff, and they are in your packet. One is for the South Dakota Weed Board and Weed Commission meeting, and that is in Pierre, and the other one is in Aberdeen, and that is to calibrate the mosquito sprayer, as you heard him talk about earlier. Motion by Waterman, second by Hanton. Any discussion?
That would cover both of these.
Yes,
My
that'll
motion
take care of
would be
both
to
of
cover
these.
both of these.
Yeah. Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, let's go on to mature business. Any old business to discuss this morning? Any old business? Any old business? Any old business? Seeing none, let's go on to new business. Any new business? Any new
I would
business?
just like to report, for my ICAP meeting last week, to date, there was 490 individuals returns that ICAP has helped individuals with their VITA assistance, and they kind of are guesstimating maybe over 700 by the time it's all done.
Just, Mr. Chairman, just ask
Yep.
a question. So the catchment area for ICAP, it's a chunk of eastern South Dakota. Can you just hit those again, just so people know?
For the
Or is that just talking about county,
This is-
that's just county and county numbers?
No, this is the whole
Region.
region.
Okay.
So
I guess I was asking what the region is, just, I
And
know
that's-
basically what it is.
it's
That's for dealing
16
with the
counties,
income tax.
so There's 17 certified community volunteers, so, I mean, it entails quite an area, but
Income tax assistance. Income
VITA.
tax preparation
it's,
assistance, preparation of income tax, yeah. Any other new business? Anything else? Any other new business? Open. What we got for the open? I think we probably have a Republican meeting tomorrow. Tomorrow noon. That there might be a quorum at. Is-
anyone else who's going to the camel races for Boys and Girls Club possibly could be a quorum there.
And then there's the
And I will be going to appear to the South Dakota Retirement Board meeting this week. I'll be gone Wednesday and Thursday.
There is a governor's luncheon next week, if
Yep.
we can squeeze it in before the
Yep.
assessment appeals meeting.
And don't forget that next Tuesday at 1 o'clock, we will be reconvening here for equalization. Then we will be reconvening again later that evening at 7 o'clock, or what time was that? I got it in my book here, but anybody know what time it is?
6:30.
It's usually 6:30, yeah.
6:30?
Yeah.
And that'll be at the city,
City council.
And we
Council.
haven't heard yet how many will be hearing.
no,
Has anyone?
not heard anything about numbers or anything like that. But be sure and get that on your calendar because it is mandatory that you do attend. All right. Entertain, I have no request for any executive session. We have a motion by Hatton to adjourn, a second by Van Duzen. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. Thank you.